Speaking test instructions. The speaking test is 20 minutes. There are 8 tasks in the speaking test. Please try your best to answer all the questions.
Start speaking now. Time is up. 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 Start speaking now. Time is up.
Justin. Receiving a sponsorship offer represents exciting validation of the audience you've built through your fitness content. Nevertheless, this opportunity comes with serious ethical considerations that could affect your credibility and relationship with your followers. First and foremost, promoting products you haven't personally used and don't genuinely believe in represents deception toward people who trust your recommendations based on your authentic fitness journey documentation. Furthermore, supplement companies specifically target influencers because personal testimonials are powerful marketing, and your audience will assume you've actually used and benefited from products you promote, making undisclosed fake endorsements fundamentally dishonest. Additionally, many supplements have potential health risks or simply don't work as advertised. And promoting products without personal experience means you cannot honestly assess whether you're recommending something safe and effective to your followers. Moreover, influencer marketing regulations in most jurisdictions require disclosure of sponsored content. But even with proper disclosure, pretending to have used products you haven't actually tried may violate consumer protection laws. Regarding false advertising, although the money is tempting and could help fund your fitness goals, consider the long-term damage to your reputation and credibility if followers discover you're promoting products you don't actually use. Consequently, your authentic voice and genuine recommendations are actually your most valuable asset as an influencer, and compromising that authenticity for short-term sponsorship money could undermine the audience trust that makes you valuable to sponsors in the first place. Additionally, you might negotiate with the supplement company to actually try their products for several months before promoting them, allowing you to provide honest testimonials if you genuinely find them beneficial. Despite pressure to monetize your platform, maintaining integrity and authentic relationships with your audience will serve your long-term interests better than accepting sponsorships that require dishonest promotion. The key is finding opportunities that align with your genuine experience and values rather than compromising credibility for immediate financial gain. 18 months ago, I was working on implementing a new customer database system for our company. A project that initially excited me because it involved learning new technology and solving complex data migration challenges. However, about 4 months into the 12-month project timeline, I completely lost motivation as the work became increasingly tedious and repetitive. Furthermore, the initial interesting challenges had been solved, and what remained was months of data cleaning, testing edge cases, documentation writing, and handling minor bug fixes that felt boring and unrewarding. Additionally, I had discovered during the project that I didn't actually enjoy database administration work as much as I had anticipated, making each day feel like a grind rather than an engaging professional challenge. The project was high visibility with senior leadership tracking progress, and I was the lead developer with specialized knowledge that made me difficult to replace. Moreover, my team members were counting on me to complete my portions so they could finish their dependent tasks, meaning my loss of motivation would directly impact others' work and project success. To stay productive despite my flagging interest, I implemented several strategies. First, I broke the remaining work into very small, achievable daily goals that I could complete and check off, creating a sense of progress even when the overall project felt overwhelming. Additionally, I scheduled the most tedious tasks for times when I had highest energy, and I alternated boring tasks with occasional more interesting problem-solving work to maintain some engagement. Moreover, I found an accountability partner on the team who I checked in with daily about progress, which created external motivation when internal motivation was lacking. I also reminded myself regularly about the professional consequences of quitting. The project failure would affect my reputation. My team members would be burdened with my unfinished work, and I would likely be assigned to another database project anyway rather than escaping to more interesting work. Most importantly, I focused on the completion date and visualized how relieved and accomplished I would feel when the project was finally done. The project was ultimately successful and delivered on time, though those final 8 months were professionally challenging. This experience taught me that motivation is not a prerequisite for productivity. That discipline and systems can carry you through periods when passion is absent. And that completing difficult, boring work builds professional resilience and credibility that serves you throughout your career. This dynamic illustration depicts a modern co-working space on a bustling weekday afternoon, where freelancers, remote workers, and startup entrepreneurs are utilizing shared office facilities to conduct their professional activities in a collaborative environment. The open concept workspace features exposed ductwork on high ceilings, large industrial windows providing abundant natural light, and a mix of workstation types including standing desks, communal tables, and private phone booths. In the foreground, a graphic designer wearing headphones is intently focused on her laptop screen, using a digital stylus to create illustrations on a tablet while color swatches and mood boards are scattered across her desk. Meanwhile, at the adjacent workstation, a software developer is typing rapidly on a mechanical keyboard, his dual monitors displaying lines of code and debugging interfaces as he troubleshoots a programming challenge. On the left side of the scene, a small brainstorming session is taking place in a glass-walled meeting room, where 4 team members are collaborating around a whiteboard covered with sticky notes, diagrams, and mind maps, enthusiastically gesturing as they refine their business strategy. Additionally, a young entrepreneur is conducting a video conference call in a soundproof booth, speaking animatedly while sharing her screen presentation with remote colleagues. The background reveals a kitchen area where members are taking coffee breaks, chatting informally while waiting for the espresso machine, and a lounge zone with comfortable couches where 2 people are having a casual networking conversation over laptops balanced on their knees. Furthermore, motivational posters featuring entrepreneurial quotes decorate the brick walls, and a community bulletin board displays upcoming networking events, skill-sharing workshops, and available sublet opportunities. What makes this workspace model particularly innovative is how it addresses the evolving nature of modern employment, providing affordable infrastructure for independent workers while fostering unexpected collaborations, combating isolation associated with remote work, and creating flexible professional environments that adapt to the changing needs of the contemporary workforce. Initially, the software developer will continue debugging complex code on his dual monitors, whereas the graphic designer will refine her digital illustration using a stylus and drawing tablet. Subsequently, the team brainstorming in the glass-walled conference room will likely finalize their project strategy before posting additional sticky notes on the whiteboard, while simultaneously, colleagues in the phone booth will conclude their confidential client calls. Meanwhile, employees in the communal lounge area will presumably finish their coffee break and return to their respective workstations, and consequently, productivity levels will increase as the afternoon progresses. Furthermore, as deadlines approach, team members might request quick consultations with senior developers or designers for technical guidance. Despite the open plan layout facilitating collaboration, individuals wearing headphones maintain necessary focus. Nevertheless, spontaneous discussions frequently occur when creative solutions emerge. In addition, The industrial-style exposed ductwork and brick walls create an inspiring atmosphere that many modern tech companies favor. In conclusion, this dynamic startup office environment will continue fostering innovation and teamwork throughout the workday, with employees alternating between focused individual tasks and collaborative sessions, thereby maintaining the perfect balance between productivity and creative synergy essential for successful technology ventures. Elizabeth, I understand your preference for the coffee shop regular table format, but I believe rotating host homes represents the better choice for our book club meetings. First and foremost, meeting in members' homes creates an intimate, comfortable atmosphere that encourages deeper, more thoughtful literary discussions than public spaces where people may feel self-conscious about expressing opinions or discussing sensitive themes. Furthermore, the personal environment of someone's home signals that book club is a special occasion worth preparing for and traveling to, rather than a casual coffee shop gathering that people might skip if they're busy or tired. Additionally, rotating the hosting responsibility among members creates shared investment in the group's success, as each person takes a turn making their home welcoming and providing refreshments, which builds stronger bonds than always meeting in anonymous public spaces. Moreover, home settings allow for complete control over environment, including lighting, seating arrangements, background music, and refreshments, enabling hosts to create ideal conditions for focused discussion without competing with coffee, grinder noise or other customers' conversations. Although hosting requires members to have adequate space and willingness to welcome the group, consider that most book club members appreciate the opportunity to host and enjoy preparing their homes for gatherings, finding it rewarding rather than burdensome. Consequently, the rotation system ensures no single person bears constant hosting responsibility, and members can skip their hosting turn if personal circumstances make it difficult during a particular month. Despite concerns about imposing on members' homes, the reality is that people who join book clubs typically enjoy the social aspect and appreciate intimate home gatherings. The public library option, while free, often has restrictive rules and limited evening availability that constrain our scheduling. The coffee shop, though casual and convenient, creates distracting noise and lacks privacy for focused literary discussion. Don't you think the intimate personal setting of rotating homes will create better conditions for meaningful book discussions and stronger group connections? Elizabeth, while I appreciate the intimate appeal of rotating host homes, I strongly believe the public library meeting room represents the most practical and inclusive choice for our book club. First and foremost, library meeting rooms are specifically designed for group discussions with appropriate seating, acoustics, and lighting that facilitate focused conversation about literature without household distractions, like pets, phones, or family members. Furthermore, using a neutral public space ensures that all members feel equally comfortable attending regardless of their personal housing situations, income levels, or comfort with hosting strangers in their homes. Additionally, library locations are typically centrally located with parking and public transportation access, making attendance easier for members who might struggle to reach residential neighborhoods or find parking near members' homes. Moreover, the professional quiet environment of a library naturally sets expectations for respectful, focused discussion rather than the social party atmosphere that home settings sometimes create. Although libraries may have limited evening availability, most library systems offer meeting rooms with reasonably flexible scheduling, and booking the same time slot monthly creates predictable routine that members can plan around. Consequently, the structure and consistency of always meeting in the same library location eliminates the confusion and coordination challenges of rotating hosts and changing addresses each month. Despite the no food or drinks restriction, consider that eliminating refreshments actually removes the hosting burden and expense while ensuring that our focus remains on literary discussion rather than on who brought the best snacks. The rotating homes option, while intimate, creates inequality by imposing hosting burdens on members and potentially excluding people who aren't comfortable opening their homes. The coffee shop option offers casualness but sacrifices the quiet focus that serious book discussion deserves. Don't you think the professional accessibility and neutral environment of a library better serves our goal of inclusive, focused literary discussion? Sarah, I need to talk with you about something that's been causing me enormous stress. And I'm honestly dreading this conversation. First and foremost, please know that you're one of my closest friends and your wedding is incredibly important to me. Nevertheless, I'm facing an impossible conflict between your wedding and the marathon I've been training for over the past 6 months, both scheduled for the same weekend. Furthermore, when I initially told you I'd be at your wedding, I didn't know the marathon date because registration hadn't opened yet. And by the time I registered and committed to the training schedule, I assumed I had mentioned this to you, but clearly we had a miscommunication. Additionally, I've invested hundreds of hours and significant money into preparing for this marathon. Working with a coach, following a strict training regimen, and building toward this specific race as my goal. Moreover, my running coach has emphasized that skipping this marathon after all the preparation would be psychologically devastating for my running journey and that the training is specifically peaked for this particular race date. Although I understand this sounds like I'm prioritizing a race over your wedding, consider that this marathon represents months of dedication toward a personal goal. And there isn't another equivalent race available in the near future that would allow me to use this training. Consequently, I'm in the terrible position of having to choose between 2 important commitments, both of which I made in good faith. Despite how awful this makes me feel, I believe I need to run this marathon and unfortunately will have to miss your wedding. I'm absolutely devastated about this. And I want to celebrate your marriage in another meaningful way. Perhaps hosting a celebration dinner when you return from your honeymoon, or being involved in pre-wedding events if any are happening locally. I genuinely hope you can understand this impossible situation and forgive me. I know this is disappointing and hurtful, and I take full responsibility for the miscommunication that created this conflict. Coach Williams, I need to inform you about a decision I've made regarding the marathon next month. And I hope you'll understand my reasoning even though I know you'll be disappointed. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge all the time and expertise you've invested in preparing me for this race. And I'm genuinely grateful for the coaching that has transformed my running abilities over these past 6 months. Nevertheless, I've realized that the marathon falls on the same weekend as my best friend's wedding in another state. And after much agonizing over this conflict, I've decided I need to attend the wedding and withdraw from the marathon. Furthermore, while I completely understand your perspective that missing this race after all our training preparation is suboptimal from a performance standpoint, I've concluded that my best friend's wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event that I cannot miss. Additionally, I recognize that you've designed my entire training program to peak specifically for this race date, and I'm essentially throwing away the careful periodization and preparation we've built over 6 months. Moreover, I understand your concern that withdrawing might be psychologically demotivating and could affect my commitment to future running goals. Although all of these coaching concerns are valid, Consider that life sometimes requires prioritizing relationships over athletic goals, and that missing one race doesn't negate all the fitness gains and running skills I've developed through our training. Consequently, I'm hoping we can work together to identify another marathon in the next few months where I can apply this fitness base, perhaps with a shorter training cycle since I'm already in strong running condition. Additionally, I'm committed to maintaining my fitness through the wedding weekend and continuing to train seriously for another race opportunity. Despite this setback to our marathon plans, I remain dedicated to my running development and I value your coaching relationship. I hope you can understand that this decision reflects the reality that personal relationships sometimes must take precedence over athletic goals, even when the timing is frustrating from a training perspective. Would you be willing to help me identify an alternative race target and adjust my training accordingly? All packaging materials should be required to be biodegradable or compostable by law, as the environmental crisis created by plastic pollution justifies regulatory intervention even if it increases product costs. First and foremost, current packaging practices generate massive environmental damage, including ocean plastic pollution, microplastics in food chains, and persistent waste that remains in ecosystems for centuries, causing harm to wildlife and human health. Furthermore, voluntary industry efforts to reduce packaging waste have proven insufficient, as companies prioritize cost reduction over environmental responsibility when given the choice, making regulation necessary to force systemic change. Additionally, requiring biodegradable packaging creates market incentives for innovation in sustainable materials, driving research and development that will ultimately reduce costs as these technologies scale and become standard. Moreover, the increased costs argument often ignores the hidden environmental costs of current packaging that society pays through cleanup efforts, ecosystem damage, health impacts, and long-term environmental degradation. Although transitioning to biodegradable packaging will initially increase prices for some products, consider that many sustainable packaging alternatives already exist at competitive prices, and mandatory adoption would drive economies of scale that further reduce costs. Consequently, modest price increases on consumer goods represent a reasonable trade-off for preventing catastrophic environmental damage that affects current and future generations. Additionally, regulations could include transition periods and exemptions for essential medical or safety applications where biodegradable alternatives aren't yet viable, ensuring that environmental goals don't compromise critical functions. Some argue that consumers should choose sustainable products voluntarily through market forces. But this approach has failed for decades while plastic pollution has accelerated. Nevertheless, requiring biodegradable packaging shouldn't be the only environmental policy. It should be part of comprehensive approaches including reducing overall packaging, improving recycling systems, and holding producers responsible for product lifecycle impacts. Therefore, mandatory biodegradable packaging represents necessary and justified environmental regulation that addresses a genuine crisis, drives innovation towards sustainable solutions, and ensures that environmental costs are reflected in product prices rather than externalized onto society and ecosystems. Laura, I just found the absolute perfect housewarming gift for your new apartment at Artisan Kitchen on Market Street. While browsing with Aunt Susan, I discovered this absolutely extraordinary cutting board that's unlike anything I've ever seen in kitchen stores. This piece is crafted from multiple types of wood arranged to create a three-dimensional topographic map of the Rocky Mountains, with different wood colors representing various elevations just like a real topographic map. What makes this incredibly unique is how the varying wood grain and natural colors create realistic mountain ridges and valleys that you can actually feel with your fingers. And the darker walnut wood represents the deepest valleys while lighter maple shows the highest peaks. Furthermore, the entire board has been treated with food-safe mineral oil that brings out the natural beauty of each wood species. And the edges are laser engraved with actual elevation markers and compass directions. Not only is it fully functional as a premium cutting surface with the perfect hardness to protect your knives, but it's also artistic enough to display on your wall when not in use. The artisan mentioned that each board takes over 40 hours to create because every piece of wood must be precisely cut and arranged to match real topographic data. Since the shop prohibits photography to prevent mass manufacturers from copying these handmade designs, I couldn't take pictures. Given your passion for hiking in the mountains and how you've been collecting unique kitchen items for your new place, this topographic cutting board combines both your interests perfectly. Should I purchase this as your housewarming gift?